Hello everyone, Caroline here. In today's video, I want to share 5 cards that I created with the Papercraft Society box for the month of June 2020. If you're interested to see a whole unboxing video, please check out in my description box. I put a link to Lou Collins' unboxing video there. Now, here you can see the stamp and the die set that comes with the kit. And I created this violin and the guitar with the included stamp and die set. If you're interested to see how I put this guitar and also the violin together, please let me know in the comments, and I will be happy to create a little video to show you how I created the violin and the guitar. So now let's get started with card number 1. For my first card, I'm choosing a card base, A2 size, and I use the cardstock, that Abrico cardstock that comes in the kit, and also pen and paper. Additionally, I used a die from my stash to cut out my sentiment. I also used some paper flowers from 49 Market, and I also added some die cuts from the stamp set, the corner embellishments. Now I'm adding the cardstock to my card base here, and then I'm choosing my pen and paper here and rough up the edges. And in this kit includes 3 ink pads, mini ink pads, and here you can see the 3 colors. And I'm gonna ink up the edge of my pen and paper here with my brush. And first I used the middle color, and then I'm adding also the darker one. Now for those corner embellishing die cuts, I am using some stickers, diamond stickers, and I'm gonna rub this just on top of my cutouts here, and this will give the cardstock a nice glittery effect. I'm also using some dark green distress ink and just darken up the leaves of the paper flowers. Now I'm adding my background piece here to my card base. And then I'm adding my corner embellishings to the top. And then I decided that the sentiments that I did doesn't really fits. I wanted it to be a little bit lighter, so I actually stamped this out on some white pearlescent cardstock and just slightly distressed the edge with some ink. And then I'm using the guitar and I'm placing it with foam tape onto my card. And then I'm adding the other corner piece to the right bottom side and let this piece overlap a little bit on the guitar. Then I'm adding my sentiment also with foam tape, and I'm sticking that on the top left corner there, slightly overlapping the neck of my guitar there. And then I'm adding my flower embellishing with glue dots and with some liquid glue. And I'm using 2 little flowers and a big flower on the bottom, and then I'm adding 2 little flowers to my sentiment tag. And for final touch, I'm just adding a few dream drops in this yellow color. And here's my finished card. Card 2. So for this card, I decided to go with a 6 by 6 inch card base. And I have a piece of black pearlescent cardstock, and then pattern paper that came in the kit, the note sheet, and also some vellum paper that I cut to size. Stamping out my sentiment here, and that comes also from the stamp set, and I'm distressing the edge with the ink pads or the ink colors that comes in the kit. And then I'm sticking this on a piece of the wooden cardstock that came in the kit, and I'm distressing the edge with ink. Now I'm using my music sheet here, and I'm ripping a little bit on the top and the bottom, and I also rough up the edge. I want this to look very rustic, antique looking. So I'm using a bunch of ink, and I'm adding this to the edge, and I also add some water to get a little bit more distressed look. And then I'm drying this off. And I'm adding some white splatters with my Distress Stain paint. Now I'm just adding my piece of cardstock here to my card base. And when I started this card, I wasn't sure if I would put the violin as a focus point or not. So in the end, I decided not to use it. Instead, I used another die cut that came or that I cut out with one of the dies. That's that circle with the little music key here. And then I'm adding one of the corner element that I cut out, and I attach this to my sentiment. Then I'm adding my cutout here, and instead of the violin, I cut out a bunch of music notes that came with the die set. And I used the gold mirror cardstock that came with the kit, and also some black pearlescent and some in white pearlescent cardstock. And I'm just arranging them on my card, and I attach them just with liquid glue. And then I'm embellishing this with gold stickers and also some Nuvo glitter drops in Gold Coast. And here's my finished card. Card number 3. Now for this card, this is just a craft cardstock card base. And I cut out some vellum to size, and also another pattern paper that came with the kit, a bunch of notes, also a sentiment, and then I'm using this embossing folder that also comes with the kit, and I embossed it onto that apricot cardstock here. And then I'm taking this and I'm using my Mica Magic colors here, and I'm using the gold, and I'm gonna rub this gold right with my finger on top of the embossing. This will give a beautiful sheen to this. Then I cut it apart and I rough up the edge. I just want to use this as strips. And then I'm adding also some ink to my strips here. And then I'm taking my vellum sheet, and I also give this vellum sheet a slight gold sheen on the edge. And then I'm roughing up my pattern paper piece, and I also add some ink with my brush to it. Now to assemble my card, I'm using this vellum piece and I'm adding this to my card base. And then I'm adding my pattern paper. And then I've decided to add another piece of vellum, just a strip. I ripped this up and I'm adding this just with liquid glue on top. And then I'm adding my strips here. I just rip them apart and I'm attaching them with liquid glue. Actually, with tape, I first add another piece of that corner element, and I do the same on the top. And then I'm assembling my sentiment here. I cut it out in black cardstock and in gold mirror, and I'm using the gold mirror just as a drop shadow. Now I'm attaching my strip here. I'm attaching one on the top and one on the bottom. And I'm just cutting the excess away. And then I'm attaching my sentiment just with liquid glue. And I also added some, I think 3 of the notes with liquid glue. And then I'm adding my violin with foam tape right there in the middle. And then I'm sticking the bow right on top. Now for final touch, I'm using again my gold stickers. And here is my finished card. Card 4. Now I decided to make a shaker card, a small shaker card. I used a card that's 4 by 4 inches. And I also use again some vellum. I'm using this cutout, die cut, the key with the circle. And I'm gonna create my own background here. And I'm just playing with the ink pads. I'm just starting with this beautiful, it looks on the packaging orange, but if you use it, it's almost like a very, very warm yellow. It's very beautiful. And then adding some of the middle color, like the brownish color. And then I'm adding more water. And then I'm picking up the water to get this distress look. And after I'm drying this, I'm just cutting out my, with my die here, the inside. And I'm going to keep the cut for another card. And I'm just going, now I'm using this piece from that I cut out. I'm adding some ink around it. And then I'm attaching the gold mirror cutout that I have cut out before. And I'm adding this with some tape. I'm going around the edge and make sure it's not visible from the other side. And then I'm using this vellum piece and I'm adding this instead of acetate. I'm cutting away the excess. And then I'm using the stems that come in the stem set, those little notes, and I'm just creating a little pattern around my edge here. And I'm starting with the light color and I'm going a darker. I'm using the other notes and then I'm going in and using the darkest brown. Once that's done, I decided to use this pattern paper as my backing paper, and I'm creating my shaker box here, or my shaker element, by stacking the foam tape twice. And then I'm filling this up. First I'm using my powder tool, making sure my sequins will not get stuck on the side. And in this box comes those sequins that are really large, so I use just a few of them. And then I use some sequins for my stash, and I'm attaching the backing to my shaker piece. And then I'm adding this to my card base. Now for my sentiment, I'm using the other sentiment that came with the stem set that says a note of thanks, and I emboss this with gold embossing powder that comes in the kit. And then I'm cutting this just the size, and I am adding this to my card, and I'm using foam tape for that. For final embellishing, I'm using again my gold stickles and also my dream drops. And here's my finished card. Cut 5. So for my last card, I used a black card base. It's a 5x7 card, and I actually used a bunch of stems, all these musical instruments that come with the stem set. And I'm again creating my own background here. I'm using a brush, I'm using some water, and I just let that color run down my paper here, and then I'm adding more and more until I like what I'm seeing. Here I'm adding some splatters. I'm just playing around with my inks here until I'm satisfied and like the background. And then I'm drying it. And then I'm using this big circle stamp that comes in the kit. And I am adding the lightest color from those ink pads, and I'm spritzing some water on it so it will be kind of a watercolor effect. And by the way, that piece of paper is actually watercolor paper, so it soaks up the water very well. And then I'm going around and I'm using all 3 colors. So I have like a piece of pen and paper here. And again, I'm actually distressing the edge with the ink pad. And I'm also adding some gold watercolor splatters. And also some white splatters. Then I'm drying my piece. And I'm using a piece of that vellum that comes in the kit. And I want to just add that to my card. So then I forgot to stamp out my saxophone here, and I'm quickly doing this now, and I'm using just my brown VersaFine ink, and I'm just using a random piece of watercolor here, and I'm using my traditional watercolors and color it in very quickly with some yellow, and I'm just adding the color all over. And then for shadowing, I'm just using a darker yellow, adding some orange to the yellow, and I'm shading my saxophone here on one side, a little bit darker, so I'm getting this metal effect. And then I'm just using a little bit of gray, Payne's gray, and adding that to the mouthpiece. And then I'm fussy cut that quickly out. And then I'm ready to assemble my card. Now I'm using this piece that I had cut out in my last card. And I'm rubbing over it, and I'm inking it up with a darker brown, and then I'm rub over it my diamond stickles, and I let that dry. And then I'm adding my background here. And then I'm adding my die cut right on top of my vellum. And then I'm positioning that like I want it. And I just want it to be like a random, collage of instruments. Now I'm stamping out my sentiments, and I'm used again that happy birthday. And then I'm cutting this to size, and then I'm adding my saxophone here on the bottom with liquid glue. Some of them I attached with foam tape, so you have some dimension. And then my sentiment I'm distressing as well on the edge with ink. And then I am adding some glitter drops. And also I add some glossy accent to my, what is this, tuba? No, I don't think it's a tuba, horn. And then to my saxophone as well. And I also add this to this big key here, music key. And then here is my finished card. Now here are my cards again in close up. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have this kit, I hope you have this box. I hope you got some inspiration or what you could do with it. I had lots of fun with it. It's a very different kit. The colors and also the whole instrument, that was very interesting to work with, or had a lot of fun to work with this. So yeah, let me know if you have questions. I'm happy to answer them, and I hope I see you in my next video. Until then, bye.